Welcome back to Tina Romance Library, where powerful alphas fall hard, and the women they underestimate change everything. Every story here is complete, immersive, and emotion-driven. No cliffhangers, no rushed endings, just full romances you can sink into. So if you love possessive alphas, strong heroines who don't beg, slow burn tension, emotional payoffs, and stories that actually finish, you're in the right place. I need you to join the pack right now by subscribing, leave a like if you enjoy immersive romance, and settle in because once the story begins, we don't stop until the ending. Now, let's get into it. They say you know when you're about to die, that your life flashes before your eyes, that time slows down, that you feel this overwhelming sense of peace, like the universe is finally letting you rest. They're wrong. When I collapsed on that stone floor, there was no peace. No comforting embrace of darkness. Just cold, bitter, merciless cold, seeping through my thin dress and into my bones like it wanted to claim me from the inside out. The stone was ancient, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, and I could feel every groove, every imperfection pressing into my cheek as my body gave out. I remember thinking how strange it was that I could feel that texture so clearly when I couldn't feel my fingers anymore, when I couldn't feel my legs, when my heartbeat had become this irregular, stuttering thing in my chest, like it was forgetting how to be a heart. This is the moment I thought I would die. And here's what no one tells you about dying: you don't think about the big things. You don't see your childhood or hear your mother's voice or remember every person you've ever loved. You think about the small things, the stupid things, like how you never got to taste real chocolate, the kind they keep locked away in the Capitol, like how you never learned to swim because there was never time, never safety, never anything but survival, like how you're 23 years old and you've never been kissed, never been held, never been anything but hungry and scared and so tired. The throne room was spinning above me, all shadows and torchlight bleeding together like watercolors in the rain. I could hear voices angry, sharp, demanding, but they sounded like they were coming from underwater, from another world, a world I was already leaving. I didn't know that one of those voices belonged to him. I didn't know that in seconds everything would change. I didn't know his arms would be the last place I expected, and the first place I ever felt safe. Because here's the thing about werewolves, about alphas, about kings who rule with blood and brutality: they don't save humans. They don't care about girls who collapse on their throne room floors, girls with bruised wrists and hollow cheeks and desperation carved into every rib. They especially don't care about girls like me, slaves, nobodies, less than nothing in their glittering, violent world. They saw a broken human. He saw his mate. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back. Let me show you how a girl who had nothing, no family, no freedom, no future, ended up in the arms of the most dangerous man in the kingdom. Let me show you how sometimes the thing that should destroy you is the only thing that can save you. Let me show you how I found my way home in the last place I should have ever looked. This is my story, and it starts with me dying on a stone floor, with his heartbeat becoming the only sound that mattered, with his scent wrapping around me like a promise I didn't understand yet. It starts with the moment everything I thought I knew about monsters turned out to be wrong. 3 days before I collapsed, I stood in chains. Not real ones. The Alpha Court didn't need metal to bind me. They had something better: accusations, witnesses, and a room full of wolves who could smell my humanity like rot. The chains were invisible, woven from their stares and their sneers and the certainty that I didn't belong here, that I never had. The courtroom was massive, all black stone and soaring arches that disappeared into shadow. Torches burned in iron sconces along the walls, casting everything in amber and darkness, making the wolves' eyes flash gold when they turned to look at me. And they all looked, every single one of them. Pack leaders in fine clothes, council members with their silver chains of office, guards with hands resting on sword hilts like I might suddenly become dangerous. Like I was anything but a girl in a torn dress, standing barefoot on cold marble, trying not to shake. I'd been standing for 2 hours, maybe 3. Time moved strangely in that room, stretched thin by fear and pain. My ribs ached where Emily's mate had kicked me 4 days ago. She'd told him I tried to steal her jewelry, and he hadn't bothered to ask questions. The bruises were spectacular, deep purple blooming into sick yellow, wrapping around my torso like fingers. Every breath was a negotiation. Every heartbeat sent fresh pain radiating through my chest. But I kept my chin up. I kept my eyes forward, because giving them my pain felt like giving them permission. And I had so little left that was mine. "The accused will face the court," someone announced. Some official with a voice like gravel and authority. I was already facing them. Had been facing them since they dragged me in here. But I turned anyway, slowly, because sudden movements made my vision swim. The gallery rose up before me in tiers, wolves arranged by rank, by pack, by how much power they wielded. The lower seats held lesser pack members. The middle tiers held enforcers and merchants. The top. I didn't let myself look at the top. Not yet. That's where the Alpha King sat, where his council flanked him like dark wings, where the real power lived, the kind that could erase you with a word. My stepsister stood 20 feet to my left, on a raised platform that made her look important, made her look like the victim. She wore pale blue silk that matched her eyes, her blonde hair swept up in an intricate style that probably took her maid an hour. Her hands were clasped delicately in front of her, her expression perfectly crafted, hurt, confused, betrayed. I wanted to laugh. Would have if I'd had the breath for it. "Emily Blackwood," the official continued, "please recount the events of 3 nights past." Emily's lower lip trembled. She was good. I'd give her that. Years of practice lying to her father, lying to the pack, lying to everyone who ever asked why I had new bruises, new cuts, new reasons to flinch. "I trusted her," Emily said, her voice soft and wounded. It carried anyway. The acoustics in the room were designed for it. She was family. My father took her in when she had nothing. We gave her a home, food, safety. Safety. The word was a knife. I felt my jaw clench, felt my nails dig into my palms. The manacles around my wrists weren't tight, but they were cold, a reminder that I was here as a criminal, not a person. And she repaid that kindness with theft, Emily continued. I woke to find her in my chambers, going through my things. When I confronted her, she... A pause, a delicate hand to her throat. She attacked me. If my mate hadn't heard my screams... Lies. All of it. Lies wrapped in silk and delivered with tears. The truth was simpler and so much uglier. I'd gone to her room because she'd called for me. Her maid was sick, and she needed help with her dress for some party. I'd laced up her corset, careful not to pull too tight, and she'd waited until I was reaching for her necklace to accuse me of trying to steal it. Had screamed for help before I could even process what was happening. Her mate had burst in, already believing her, already furious, and I'd learned that you can't defend yourself against fists when you're human, and they're wolf-strong. But the truth didn't matter in this room. The evidence is clear, some council member said from above. I still couldn't look up. Couldn't bear to see their faces, their certainty, their complete lack of interest in anything I might say. Except I felt it again. That sensation that had been crawling up my spine since they'd brought me in. The feeling of being watched, but not the way the others watched. Not with disgust or curiosity or hunger. With focus, with intensity, with something I couldn't name. It was coming from above, from the highest tier. My heart kicked hard against my damaged ribs, and I made the mistake, or maybe not a mistake. Maybe it was inevitable of looking up. Silver eyes met mine. The world didn't stop. That's another lie they tell you, that time freezes when something important happens. But everything did go very quiet in my head. All the fear and pain and anger, all the noise of my thoughts, suddenly muted. He sat in the center of the high council tier, and I knew without being told that this was him, the Alpha King. Kieran Ashwood, though I didn't know his name then. I just knew power when I saw it, when I felt it pressing against my skin like a physical thing. He wasn't looking at Emily, wasn't looking at the council members who were still talking, still presenting their case against me. He was looking at me. Had been looking at me, I realized. For how long? His face was all sharp angles and brutal beauty, high cheekbones, strong jaw, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled. Dark hair that fell across his forehead despite being pulled back, but it was his eyes that trapped me. Silver, like moonlight on water, like polished steel, like nothing human and everything dangerous. He didn't smile, didn't nod, didn't acknowledge me beyond that steady, unwavering stare. But something passed between us in that moment. Some current of energy that made my pulse stutter and my breath catch, and my wolfless, broken body respond in ways it shouldn't. Heat bloomed along my spine, spreading outward, warming skin that had been cold for so long I'd forgotten what warmth felt like. It felt dangerous, like standing too close to a storm, like touching lightning and surviving just long enough to wonder if you wanted to do it again. I tore my gaze away, heart hammering, hands shaking worse now than before. Does the accused have anything to say in her defense? The official's voice cut through my scattered thoughts. They were asking me to speak, to defend myself against lies with truth they'd never believe. I opened my mouth, tried to form words. My voice came out raw, barely above a whisper. I swallowed, tried again. I didn't steal anything. I didn't attack her. She called me to her room. I was helping her dress, and she— Lies. Emily's mate snarled from somewhere to my right. You dare. Please, I said, and hated how much the word sounded like begging. But I was so tired of being hurt, of being blamed, of carrying everyone else's cruelty. Please, just listen. I've served that family for 8 years. 8 years of— The pain hit without warning. Not new pain. Old pain, the kind living in my ribs, suddenly flaring white-hot and vicious. The room tilted. My knees went liquid. I heard the wolves whisper, felt their judgment like a weight crushing down on me. Guilt weighs heavy, someone murmured. The weak always break, another agreed. No, I thought desperately, grabbing for the edge of consciousness like a lifeline. No, pain does. Years of it, mountains of it. Pain you gave me, pain you ignored, pain you pretended not to see. But I couldn't say it, could barely breathe through it. My vision spotted with darkness. I tried to lock my knees, tried to force my body to obey, but I'd been running on empty for too long. Had pushed too hard, survived too much. The marble rushed up to meet me, and in the last second before I hit the ground, before everything went black and cold and final, I felt it again. Those silver eyes, that storm pressure attention, watching me fall, not with satisfaction, with something that felt almost like rage. I didn't hit the ground. That's the first thing I remember. Not the impact I'd braced for, not the final crack of bone against stone. Just warmth, strength, arms closing around me like they'd been waiting. The transition from falling to held was so seamless my brain couldn't process it. One moment gravity had me, pulling me down into darkness and cold. The next, I was suspended, cradled against something solid and warm and alive, my cheek pressed against fabric. Soft fabric, expensive, covering something much harder underneath. Muscle, a chest, a heartbeat, strong and steady, thundering beneath my ear like a war drum. I couldn't open my eyes, couldn't move. My body had finally given up, surrendered to the pain and exhaustion I'd been fighting for so long. But I could feel, God, I could feel everything. The arms holding me were careful, gentle in a way that seemed impossible given how strong they were. One under my knees, one supporting my back, adjusting my weight like I was something precious, something that might break. Too late for that, I thought distantly. Already broken. But then the scent hit me. Pine and steel and something wild. Something that smelled like storms rolling over mountains. Like wind through ancient forests. Like earth after rain. It wrapped around me, filled my lungs. And something inside my chest, something I didn't even know existed, woke up. It wasn't my wolf. I'd never had a wolf. Would never have one. But this was something else. Something deeper. something that lived in my bones and my blood and every cell of my wolfless body. It screamed one word, over and over. Mine. The wrongness of it, the impossibility, should have terrified me. I was human. Humans didn't feel this, didn't recognize mates, didn't have souls that reached for strangers and claimed them with a certainty that defied logic. But I felt it anyway, felt it like breathing, like truth. My fingers curled into his shirt without my permission, holding on, and I heard a sound above me, a sharp intake of breath. Then his voice, low and rough, and vibrating through his chest into mine. Who did this to you? 4 words. Simple words. But the way he said them, like each one was a promise of violence, like he was already planning how to destroy whoever had hurt me, made my eyes burn behind closed lids. No one had ever asked that before. Not in 8 years. Not once. I tried to answer. Tried to form words, to explain, but my tongue was thick and my throat tight, and all I could manage was a broken sound that might have been his title, or a plea, or just pain finally being acknowledged. Don't. His voice again, softer now but no less intense. Don't try to speak. I've got you. I've got you. 3 more words that shouldn't have mattered, that shouldn't have reached past my defenses and wrapped around my heart and made me want to believe in things I'd stopped believing in years ago. But they did. The room came back in pieces. Sounds first shocked whispers, the scrape of chairs, someone's sharp gasp, then awareness of movement, of him standing, of my body being lifted higher against his chest. I forced my eyes open. Mistake. Or not a mistake. I didn't know anymore. I was looking up at him from inches away, the Alpha King, Kieran. Those silver eyes that had watched me fall now blazed down at me with something fierce and protective and possessive. Mine, he said, and this time it wasn't a question. Wasn't even a statement. It was a decree, an absolute truth being spoken into existence. The mate bond snapped into place like a physical thing. I felt it in my chest, in my spine, in every nerve ending suddenly coming alive. It burned and ached and sang all at once, this invisible cord connecting me to him, pulling tight, settling into place like it had been waiting my whole life to find its home. My breath hitched. His eyes flared brighter. My mate, he said louder, addressing the room now without looking away from me. Mine to protect, mine to defend. The courtroom exploded. Voices overlapped, shocked and angry and disbelieving. I heard Emily's sharp cry of protest, heard council members demanding explanation, heard the chaos of a room full of wolves whose world had just been turned upside down. But he didn't respond, didn't acknowledge them. He just shifted his hold on me, adjusting my weight with impossible gentleness, and turned his attention to my wrist. The manacle hung loose now. Someone must have unlocked it, or maybe he'd broken it. I didn't know, didn't care. Because he was pushing up my sleeve, his fingers careful against my skin, and I watched his face as he saw what was underneath. The bruises were worse on my arms. Purple-black fingerprints where Emily's mate had grabbed me, held me down. Yellow-green marks from older injuries that had never fully healed. My skin was a canvas of violence, and I'd gotten so used to hiding it, to wearing long sleeves and high collars and shame. But I couldn't hide now. His jaw turned to stone. His eyes went from silver to something darker, something that looked like mercury and murder. Who, he repeated, each word precise and deadly calm, did this? It wasn't a question this time either. My lord, she's a criminal. She was being tried for... Some voice from the council, trying to interject, trying to restore order. The trial is over. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. I am her alpha. I am her mate. Anyone who touched her, who hurt her, who allowed her to be hurt, will answer to me. Silence crashed down. I stared up at him, my heart doing something complicated and painful in my chest. This couldn't be real. Couldn't be happening. Alpha Kings didn't claim broken human girls. Didn't hold them like they mattered, like they were worth protecting, like they were anything but disposable. But his arms around me said otherwise. The mate bond thrumming between us said otherwise. The way he looked at me really looked at me, saw me, not as a slave or a criminal or something less than, but as his said otherwise. "Your Majesty, surely you don't mean—" Another voice, cautious, uncertain. "I mean exactly what I said." He finally tore his gaze from me to sweep the room. "This woman is under my protection. Under my claim. The bond has been recognized. Anyone who disputes this can take it up with me personally." The threat in those words was unmistakable. I felt him move, felt us moving, and realized he was carrying me toward the exit, just walking out with me in his arms like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like courts didn't matter, trials didn't matter, nothing mattered except getting me somewhere safe. "The Blackwood girl," he said over his shoulder, his voice dropping to something cold and lethal. "And her mate. Hold them. I'll deal with them later." Emily's scream of protest followed us out. The hallway was cooler, darker. My head rested against his shoulder because I didn't have the strength to hold it up, and I felt his heartbeat still pounding, strong and sure and steady. "Why?" I whispered. Finally found my voice, though it came out broken and small. "Why would you? I'm nobody. I'm human. You're mine," he said it simply. Absolutely. Like those two words explained everything. Maybe they did. "And you're hurt. That's all I need to know right now." His arms tightened fractionally, drawing me closer, and I felt the gentleness in it, the care. To the court, he'd been terrifying all alpha dominance and barely leashed rage, but his hands on me were soft, protective, like I was something that might shatter if he held too tight. Like I mattered. God, when was the last time I'd mattered to anyone? "I don't understand," I breathed. "You will." His voice rumbled through me, and I felt his lips brush my forehead just a touch, barely there, but it sent warmth cascading through my chest. "Rest now. I've got you. You're safe. You're safe." I wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly it hurt worse than my ribs, worse than my bruises, worse than 8 years of pain stacked on top of each other. So I let my eyes close, let the exhaustion take me, let myself, just this once, trust that someone would catch me if I fell, because he already had. I woke to softness. That was wrong. That was so wrong my eyes flew open in panic, my body jerking like I'd been shocked. I'd spent 8 years sleeping on a thin mat in a corner of the kitchen. Before that, on whatever surface my mother could find before she died. Soft was dangerous. Soft meant I'd fallen asleep somewhere I shouldn't be, and someone would make me pay for it. But the hands that caught my shoulders were gentle, steadying, not restraining. "Easy," his voice, the Alpha King's voice. "Kieran, you're safe. Just breathe." I was in a bed. An actual bed with clean sheets that smelled like lavender and something else. Something wild and familiar, his scent, woven through the fabric like he'd been here. The room around me was enormous, all dark wood and stone, lit by a fire crackling in a hearth big enough to stand in. Tapestries hung on the walls, rich colors depicting wolves and forests and moons. This wasn't a servant's quarter. This wasn't even a guest room. This was his room. Had to be. Where? My voice cracked. My throat was raw, like I'd been screaming. Maybe I had been. I didn't remember. My chambers. He sat in a chair pulled close to the bed, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Still in the same clothes from the courtroom, but his jacket was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up. He looked tired, worried. "The healers saw to your ribs, wrapped them. You've been asleep for 6 hours. 6 hours. I'd lost 6 hours. Panic clawed up my throat. "Emily, her mate, they'll come. They'll say I escaped. They're in cells." His voice went flat, hard. "They won't touch you again." The certainty in those words should have comforted me. Instead, it made everything real. Made me realize that this wasn't a dream, wasn't some fever hallucination brought on by pain and desperation. He'd really claimed me, really carried me out of that courtroom, really brought me here. I don't understand why. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. I'm nobody. I'm human. There are hundreds of wolves who'd be better. Stop. Not harsh. Firm. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and took my hand. His palm was warm, calloused, strong. It swallowed mine completely. The bond doesn't lie. You're my mate, my fated mate. That's not something I chose or you chose. It just is. But I don't have a wolf. My voice broke on the words. I can't shift. I can't give you. I don't need you to shift. His thumb brushed across my knuckles, the touch so gentle it made my chest ache. I need you to breathe, to heal, to let me protect you the way I should have been protecting you all along. You didn't know I existed. No. Something dark crossed his face. But someone should have. Someone should have stopped what was happening to you years ago. The anger in his voice wasn't directed at me. I knew that. Could feel it through the bond. This new connection between us that let me sense his emotions like they were my own. But years of conditioning made me flinch anyway. Made me try to pull my hand back. He let me go immediately. Pulled back, gave me space. His expression shifting to something that looked almost like pain. I'm not going to hurt you, he said quietly. Ever. You need to know that. I did know it. Somehow, impossibly, I knew it bone deep. But knowing and trusting were different things. Tell me what they did. He leaned back in his chair but kept his eyes on mine. Please, I need to know what I'm avenging. Avenging. Like I was worth that. Worth revenge. Worth justice. Worth anything but the nothing I'd been for so long. Why? I whispered. Because you're mine to protect. And I failed you before I even knew you existed. His jaw tightened. I won't fail you again. But I need to understand what happened. All of it. I'd never told anyone. Never had anyone who'd listen, who'd care, who'd believe me over Emily's perfect lies. The words felt stuck in my throat, jagged and painful, like swallowing glass. But his eyes, silver and steady and patient, made me want to try. My mother died when I was 15. My voice came out small, uncertain. She was Emily's father's mate, his true mate, but she was human. And he never really accepted that, kept her hidden mostly, ashamed of her. Kieran's hands curled into fists on his thighs, but he didn't speak, didn't interrupt. When she died, he didn't want me, but he couldn't just throw me out. People would ask questions. So he made me a servant, said I'd earn my keep or I'd leave. I pulled the blanket tighter around myself, needing something to hold. Emily hated me, hated that I existed, that I reminded everyone her father had loved someone else first. She started small, spilled things and blamed me, broke things and said I did it. Her father always believed her. And the bruises. His voice was carefully controlled, too controlled. Those came later, after she found her mate. I couldn't look at him now, stared at my hands instead, at the faint scars crossing my palms. Drake. He thought I was looking at him wrong one day, thought I was being disrespectful, so he grabbed me, shook me. Emily saw and she laughed, said I probably deserved it. The temperature in the room dropped. I felt Kieran's rage like a physical thing, rolling off him in waves, making the air thick and hard to breathe. But his voice stayed level. How long? 3 years. The words scraped out. 3 years of being their outlet. Whenever Emily was angry, whenever Drake needed to prove he was strong, whenever they just felt like it. And I couldn't fight back, couldn't defend myself. Human against wolves, I'd have been dead the first time. So you survived. His voice was rough now, breaking at the edges. You endured. I didn't have a choice. Finally, I looked at him, found those silver eyes blazing with barely contained fury and something else. Something that looked like anguish. And then the trial. Emily wanted me gone. Really gone. So she set it up. Called me to her room. Arranged everything so Drake would walk in at exactly the right moment. Made sure there were witnesses who'd believe her version. She tried to have you executed. It wasn't a question, but I nodded anyway. His hands flexed, relaxed, flexed again. I watched him fight for control, watched him wrestle his wolf down, and felt the effort it took through the bond. He wanted to destroy them, wanted to rip them apart for what they'd done. The violence of it should have scared me. Instead, I felt seen, felt validated in a way I never had before. I should have let you fall, I said softly. Should have just ended it. I'm going to be nothing but a burden to you. A human mate, a scandal. Someone you'll have to protect constantly because I can't protect myself. Stop. He moved so fast I barely saw it, suddenly kneeling beside the bed, his hands on either side of me, caging me in without touching. Listen to me. You survived 3 years of torture, 3 years of being used as a punching bag by people who should have protected you. You stood in that courtroom, barely able to breathe, and you still tried to defend yourself. You still fought. I collapsed. Because your body gave out. Not because you gave up. His eyes searched mine, fierce and bright. You're the strongest person I've ever met. And you think I see you as weak? I didn't know what I thought anymore. Didn't know anything except that he was close enough. I could feel his breath on my face, could see the gold flecks in his silver eyes, could smell that storm and pine scent that made my broken soul reach for him. I'm not strong, I whispered. No. His voice gentled. You're exhausted. You're hurt. You're scared. And that's okay. That's God. That's allowed. You don't have to be strong right now. Something cracked in my chest. Some wall I'd built brick by brick over 8 years. Some barrier between me and feeling anything real. I don't know how to not be strong, I admitted, and my voice shook. If I stop, if I let myself feel it all, I'm afraid I'll break? He finished when I couldn't. Then break. Break here where it's safe, where I can hold the pieces until you're ready to put them back together. The tears came without warning, hot and fast and unstoppable, spilling down my cheeks like they'd been waiting years for permission. I tried to stop them, tried to swallow them back, but they kept coming. And he didn't tell me to stop. Didn't look uncomfortable or annoyed or disgusted. He just moved onto the bed, slowly, carefully, and pulled me against his chest. One arm around my shoulders, one hand cupping the back of my head, holding me while I shattered. I've got you, he murmured into my hair. I've got you. You're safe now. I swear to you, you're safe. I cried for everything. For my mother. For the girl I'd been before the world taught me I was worthless. For 8 years of pain and fear and loneliness. For the simple, devastating kindness of being held while I broke. His arms tightened every time I faltered, every time I tried to pull myself together and couldn't, not restraining, anchoring, reminding me I wasn't alone anymore. He didn't make me strong. He let me be weak safely. And somehow, that meant everything. When the tears finally slowed, when I was empty and wrung out and exhausted in a completely different way, I stayed pressed against him. His heartbeat was steady under my ear. His hand moved in slow circles on my back. No one will ever touch you again, he said quietly. No one will hurt you, use you, or make you feel less than you are. I promise you that. On my life, on my crown, on everything I am, I promise. I believed him. Not because he was a king. Not because he was powerful or dangerous or capable of destroying anyone who tried. But because when he looked at me, I didn't see pity, didn't see duty or obligation. I saw something precious reflected back. Something worth protecting, worth keeping, worth fighting for. I saw myself the way he saw me. And maybe, just maybe, I could learn to see it too. I didn't mean to fall asleep again. But wrapped in his arms, in his scent, in the safety I'd never known before, my body made the choice for me. When I woke the second time, the fire had burned down to embers and moonlight spilled through the tall windows, painting everything silver and shadow. I was alone in the bed. Panic spiked through me, sharp and immediate, before I caught myself. Before I reminded my racing heart that being alone didn't mean abandoned. Didn't mean he'd realized his mistake and left me to face consequences alone. But old fears died hard. I pushed myself up carefully, testing my ribs. The pain was still there but muted, wrapped tight under the bandages the healers had applied. My dress was gone. I wore a soft shirt now, far too large, smelling like him. Someone had changed me while I slept, and the thought should have embarrassed me but mostly just made me feel cared for in a way that ached. "You're awake." I startled, my head whipping toward the voice. Kieran sat in the chair by the window, barely visible in the darkness. Moonlight caught the silver of his eyes, made them glow like a wolf's. How long had he been sitting there, watching me sleep? "I didn't mean to wake you," I said softly, pulling the blanket up around my shoulders. The room was cool now, the fire too low to warm much. "You didn't." He stood, moving with that liquid grace all wolves had, and crossed to the hearth. Within moments, he had the fire built back up, flames catching and spreading, pushing back the cold. "You made a sound, like you were dreaming." "Was it?" I hesitated. "A bad dream?" "I don't know. You tell me." He turned to face me, his expression unreadable in the flickering light. "You called out for your mother." "Oh." Pain squeezed my chest. Different from the physical kind. Worse in some ways. I dream about her sometimes. About the day she died. I wasn't there. Emily's father wouldn't let me see her at the end. Said it would be too upsetting. "For you? Or for him? Does it matter?" I traced a pattern on the blanket with my finger, needing something to do with my hands. Either way, I didn't get to say goodbye. He was quiet for a moment, and I felt his anger through the bond again. Not at me, never at me, but at all the ways I'd been failed, all the ways people who should have protected me had chosen not to. "Are you thirsty?" he asked, and the gentleness in his voice made my throat tight. "Hungry?" Now that he mentioned it, I was both. Desperately. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten before the trial. Maybe 2 days ago? 3? "I don't want to be any trouble," I started, but he was already moving toward a table in the corner where a tray sat covered with a cloth. "You're not trouble." He brought the tray over, set it on the bed beside me. Water in a crystal glass, fresh bread, cheese, sliced fruit that looked expensive. My mouth watered. "You're my mate. Taking care of you isn't a burden. It's a privilege." The words hit me square in the chest. A privilege. Like I was something valuable, something worth the effort. I picked up the water glass with shaking hands, brought it to my lips. The water was cool and clean, the best thing I'd tasted in years. I drank half of it before I could stop myself, then set the glass down carefully. "Thank you," I whispered. "You don't have to thank me for basic care." He settled back into the chair, but closer now, within arm's reach. "That's the bare minimum of what you deserve." I didn't know what to do with that. With him. With any of this. "I still don't understand," I said finally, picking at a piece of bread because looking at him felt too intense. "The mate bond. How you're the alpha king. You're powerful, important, probably destined for someone equally powerful. And I'm my mate." He said it simply. "Absolutely. That's all that matters. But I can't shift. I can't give you—" I struggled for the words. "Strong airs, pack connections, any of the things a queen should—" "Stop." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, those silver eyes pinning me in place. "The bond doesn't care about politics or power or bloodlines. It cares about souls. About two people who are meant to fit together, who complete each other in ways no one else can. How can you know that already?" My voice came out small, uncertain. "We've known each other for hours. How can you be so sure I'm enough?" "Because I feel it." His hand moved to his chest, pressing over his heart. "Here, the bond doesn't lie. From the moment I saw you standing in that courtroom, surrounded by wolves who wanted you dead, something in me recognized you, claimed you. Every instinct I have, every part of my wolf, they all say the same thing. You're mine. You're meant to be mine." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted it so badly it hurt. "What if I can't be what you need?" The question scraped out, raw and honest. "What if I'm too broken, too damaged, too? Then we'll figure it out together." He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and brushed his fingers against my cheek. The touch was feather-light, reverent, like I was something that might shatter. You think I'm perfect? I'm not. I have my own scars, my own darkness. Being an alpha king means making impossible choices, means carrying the weight of thousands of lives. I've done things I'm not proud of, made decisions that still haunt me. His thumb traced the curve of my cheekbone, and I couldn't help leaning into the touch, couldn't help the way my eyes fluttered closed for just a moment, savoring the gentleness. But none of that matters to the bond, he continued, his voice dropping lower. It doesn't care about our pasts or our scars or our mistakes. It just knows that you and I were supposed to be together, and everything else? We'll figure it out. I opened my eyes and found him watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. The firelight played across his features, all sharp angles and brutal beauty, but his expression was soft, open in a way I suspected he rarely allowed himself to be. You keep saying the bond, I whispered, but I don't have a wolf. I shouldn't be able to feel it, and yet you do. It wasn't a question. I can see it in your eyes when you look at me. Feel it in the way you respond to my presence. The bond doesn't require a wolf to exist, it requires souls, and yours recognized mine. He was right. I did feel it. That pull, that connection, that sense of rightness when he was near. It hummed under my skin, warm and constant, like a second heartbeat matching his. I'm scared, I admitted. I've spent so long being nothing to everyone. I don't know how to be something to someone. You don't have to know. His hand moved from my cheek to cup the back of my neck, gentle but possessive. You just have to be willing to try, to let me in, to believe that you're worth what I'm offering. And what are you offering? Everything. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with promise. Protection, safety, a home, a place where you never have to be afraid again. A partner who will fight beside you, not against you. Someone who sees you really sees you and doesn't look away. Tears pricked my eyes again, but different this time. Not from pain or grief, but from something that felt dangerously close to hope. I don't know how to do this, I whispered. How to be someone's mate, someone important. Neither do I. A small smile tugged at his lips, the first I'd seen from him, and it transformed his face completely. Made him look younger, less burdened, almost vulnerable. I've been alone for a long time, waiting for you without knowing I was waiting. We'll learn together. The bond pulsed between us, warm and insistent, and I felt his emotions bleeding through it. The protectiveness, yes. The possessiveness that should have frightened me but somehow didn't. But underneath that hope, relief, joy at having found me, at not having to be alone anymore. He needed me too. Maybe not the same way I needed him, but the bond went both ways. I could be something to him that no one else could be. The thought was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. You said you'd never abandon me, I said quietly, remembering his promise from earlier. Do you mean that? I swear it. His hand tightened slightly on my neck, grounding me. You are mine, and I am yours. That's how mate bonds work, they're not one-sided. I claim you, yes, but you claim me too. We belong to each other. I claim you? The words felt strange in my mouth, powerful, like maybe I did have some say in this, some agency I'd never been allowed before. If you want to. His eyes searched mine. I won't force this on you. The bond is there, unchangeable. But how we handle it, that's up to both of us. If you need time, if you need space. No. The word came out fast, instinctive. The thought of space, of distance from him, made something in my chest clench painfully. I don't want space. I need you to be patient with me. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to flinch when I shouldn't, expect cruelty where there isn't any, struggle to believe I deserve kindness. Then I'll be patient. He said it like a vow. As patient as you need me to be. And I'll prove to you, every single day, that you deserve everything good this world has to offer. A single tear escaped, trailing down my cheek. He caught it with his thumb, wiped it away with infinite gentleness. You're mine, he said softly. And the possessiveness in those words should have scared me, but instead made me feel safe, claimed, wanted. And I will never abandon you. Not for politics, not for power, not because others disapprove or because you're human or because of anything. You could push me away 1,000 times and I would still be here, waiting, ready to catch you when you fall. Why? The question was barely a breath. Because you're my mate. He leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching mine, and I could feel his breath on my lips. Because the moment I saw you, everything I thought I knew about my life changed. Because you're brave and strong and beautiful, and you survived things that would have destroyed most wolves. Because when I hold you, everything else fades away and all I know is that this you is what I've been missing. The bond sang between us, bright and true and unbreakable. And for the first time in 8 years, maybe in my entire life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Like I belonged to someone who would actually keep me. 3 days later, I met the woman who would teach me how to fight back. Her name was Linda, and she looked like she could break me in half without breaking a sweat. Tall, muscular, with short-cropped dark hair and scars crossing her arms like badges of honor. She was Kieran's head of security, a position no wolf took lightly. And when she looked at me that first morning in the training yard, I saw no pity in her eyes. Just assessment. Cold, calculating assessment. So you're the human mate. She circled me slowly, predator evaluating prey. Can you fight? No. I kept my chin up despite the fear creeping up my spine. I've never been taught. Can you run? Not well. Defend yourself at all? I thought about 3 years of Drake's fists, of Emily's cruelty, of all the times I'd tried to protect myself and failed. No. Linda stopped in front of me, arms crossed. Then we have a lot of work to do. His Majesty wants you trained, wants you capable of protecting yourself if something happens and he's not there. The thought of Kieran not being there made my chest tighten, but I understood. He was a king. He had responsibilities, duties, a whole kingdom to run. He couldn't be my constant shadow, no matter how much the mate bond made both of us want exactly that. I'm human, I said carefully. I'll never be as strong as a wolf, never be as fast. No. Linda's smile was sharp. But you can be smart, quick, vicious when you need to be. Wolves have their strengths, you'll have yours. Now get into position. The next hour was brutal. Linda didn't go easy on me because I was human, or the king's mate, or still healing from broken ribs that ached with every movement. She pushed me hard, knocking me down over and over, teaching me how to fall without breaking, how to roll, how to protect my vital organs. I hit the ground so many times I lost count, tasted blood from a split lip, felt new bruises forming on top of old ones. But every time I fell, I got back up. Again, Linda barked, and I dragged myself to my feet, swaying. I'm up, I panted. Your form is terrible. I've been conscious for 3 days. Excuses won't save you from an attacker. Neither will perfect form if I pass out from exhaustion. Linda's eyebrow rose, something that might have been approval flickering across her face. Smart mouth. Good. You'll need that too. She moved into position again. Now show me you can block. I tried, failed, got knocked flat on my back for the 10th time. The sky above was brilliant blue, cloudless, beautiful. I stared at it for a moment, catching my breath, and almost laughed. A week ago, I would have been scrubbing floors right now, being invisible, trying not to exist too loudly. Now I was on my back in a training yard, learning to fight, claimed by the Alpha King. My life had become completely unrecognizable. You planning to stay down there all day? Linda asked, just appreciating the view. Appreciate it on your feet. I rolled over, pushed myself up, and that's when I felt it. That familiar pressure along my spine, that awareness that made every nerve ending come alive. Kieran was watching. I found him immediately, standing in the shadows of the colonnade that overlooked the training yard. Still as stone, arms crossed, those silver eyes locked on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. How long had he been there? He's been watching for 20 minutes, Linda said, following my gaze. Hasn't moved, hasn't blinked, far as I can tell. just stands there radiating murder every time I knock you down. My heart did something complicated. He knows this is training, right? His head knows. Linda grinned. His wolf is another matter. Every alpha instinct he has is screaming at him to interfere, to protect his mate from harm. The fact that he's stayed put shows remarkable restraint. I looked back at Kieran, and even from this distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the rigid set of his jaw, could feel through the bond how much it cost him to watch me get hurt, even in controlled circumstances. Something warm unfurled in my chest. He trusted me to do this. Trusted Linda not to actually harm me. But it hurt him to watch, and he did it anyway because he knew I needed this. Again, I said to Linda, tearing my gaze away. Teach me. Her smile widened. Now we're getting somewhere. By the time she finally called an end to the session, I could barely stand. Every muscle screamed, my ribs throbbed. I was covered in dirt and sweat and probably blood, and I'd never felt more accomplished in my life. Tomorrow, same time, Linda said, tossing me a water skin. We'll work on dirty fighting. Eyes, throat, groin, all the places wolves don't expect humans to strike. Looking forward to it, I said, and meant it. She left, and I became acutely aware of Kieran's approach. Felt him before I saw him, the bond pulling tight like a string between us. You're hurt. His voice was rough, barely controlled. I'm fine. I turned to face him, trying not to wince. It's just training. You're bleeding. He was in front of me suddenly, his hand gentle on my chin, tilting my face to examine my split lip. She made you bleed. She's teaching me not to be helpless. I met his eyes, saw the storm brewing there. This is what I need, Kieran, you know that. His jaw clenched, unclenched. The internal battle playing out across his face was almost painful to watch. I know, doesn't make it easier to see. You could have stopped watching. No. The word was absolute. I couldn't. If something went wrong, if she hurt you beyond what you could handle. He stopped, took a breath. I needed to be here. The protectiveness should have felt suffocating. Should have reminded me of the way Emily's father controlled everything, monitored everything. But this was different. Kieran wasn't trying to control me. He was trying not to interfere while every instinct he had demanded he protect me. The restraint that took, the trust it meant everything. I'm okay, I said softly, reaching up to cover his hand with mine. I promise. Linda's good at her job. She won't break me. You're already broken. His voice cracked slightly. That's what they don't understand. You're still healing from what they did to you, and now I'm asking you to push yourself harder, to hurt more. You're not asking. I'm choosing. I squeezed his hand. There's a difference. Everything that happened to me before I had no choice, no control, no say. This is mine, my decision, my power. Something shifted in his expression. The storm calmed, replaced by something that looked like pride. You're incredible, he murmured. I'm sweaty and gross, and barely survived my first training session. You got back up, every single time. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, careful of my bruises. Do you know how rare that is? How strong you have to be to keep getting up. I didn't feel strong. I felt exhausted and sore and like I might collapse if he wasn't standing so close, lending me his strength through sheer proximity. But maybe that was okay. Maybe strength wasn't about never falling. Maybe it was about getting back up anyway. The days developed a rhythm after that. Mornings with Linda, getting knocked around until my body learned reflexes I'd never had. Afternoons healing, resting, trying not to feel useless while Kieran dealt with kingdom business. Evenings were ours. He'd find me wherever I was, the library he'd given me access to, the gardens where I'd discovered I could breathe without fear, his chambers that had become mine too, though we'd never discussed it. And we'd eat together, just the two of us, in comfortable silence or easy conversation. Tell me something about yourself, he said one night, both of us seated on the floor in front of the fire because chairs felt too formal, too distant. Something no one else knows. I picked at the bread on my plate, thinking. I used to steal books from Emily's room. She never read them, just collected them to look cultured. But I'd sneak in when she was gone and take them, hide them under my mat, read by candlelight when everyone was asleep. What kind of books? Everything. Adventures, romances, histories, anything that let me escape for a while. I smiled slightly. I always put them back before she noticed. Except one. His eyebrow rose, interested. You kept one? A book of poetry. It was falling apart, water damaged, like someone had thrown it away and she'd rescued it without actually caring. I took it and never returned it. I felt my cheeks heat. I still have it. Kept it hidden for 3 years. Where is it now? I stopped, realized what I was about to say. In your chambers. I hid it under the mattress out of habit. Our chambers, he corrected gently. And you don't have to hide things anymore. This is your home. Everything in it is yours. Our chambers. The words settled over me, warm and terrifying and right. Your turn, I said, needing to shift focus before I did something stupid like cry. Tell me something no one knows. He was quiet for a moment, staring into the fire. I hate being king sometimes. The confession startled me. Really? The crown is heavy. The decisions they wear on you, having to choose between bad options, knowing that no matter what you decide, someone suffers. His hand found mine, laced our fingers together. Before I found you, I used to wonder if it was worth it, if anything was worth the wait. And now? He looked at me, silver eyes bright in the firelight. Now I have something worth protecting, worth ruling for. You make the wait bearable. My heart stuttered. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person. I'm not putting it on you, I'm just... He struggled for words. You remind me why it matters. Why any of it matters. Before you, I was going through motions. Now I have a reason to build something better. His hand rested on my lower back, warm through the thin fabric of my dress, and I fought not to lean into the touch, fought not to close the distance between us and what? Kiss him? We hadn't kissed yet, hadn't crossed that line despite the bond singing between us, despite the way he looked at me sometimes like he wanted to devour me whole. We were taking it slow, for me mostly, because I needed time to trust this, to believe it wouldn't be taken away. But God, sometimes I wanted to throw caution aside and just feel. You're staring, he murmured, amusement coloring his voice. So are you. I'm allowed. You're mine to stare at. Heat flooded my cheeks. Possessive much? You have no idea. His fingers spread wider on my back, a gentle pressure. Do you know what it's like? Knowing you're mine but not being able to... He stopped, jaw clenching. Not being able to what? His eyes darkened. Touch you the way I want to. Claim you fully. Mark you so every wolf in the kingdom knows exactly who you belong to. My breath caught. The bond makes it harder. Makes me want things I have no right to ask for yet. Not until you're ready. Not until you trust that I won't hurt you. He pulled his hand back, putting distance between us, and I immediately missed the contact. I'm trying to be patient, but you make it difficult. I don't mean to. I know. A wry smile. Makes it worse, actually. If you were trying to tempt me, I could resist out of spite, but you're just you, and that's irresistible. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process being wanted, being desired, being someone's temptation instead of their burden. The moment stretched between us, charged and electric, and I thought he might kiss me, thought I might let him. But a knock at the door shattered the tension. Your Majesty, a voice called through the wood. The council requires your presence. There's been an incident at the eastern border. Kieran's eyes closed briefly, frustration bleeding through the bond. Of course there has. He stood, offered me his hand, pulled me to my feet. His thumb brushed across my knuckles, a gesture that was becoming familiar, comforting. I'll be back as soon as I can, he promised. I'll be here. He hesitated, like he wanted to say something else, do something else. But duty called, and he was king before he was mine. He left, and I stood in the firelight, touching my lips, wondering when patience would finally run out. 2 weeks after my first training session, still covered in bruises that were finally fading from purple to yellow-green, I stood in our chambers staring at the dress Kieran had sent for me. Deep emerald silk that looked like it cost more than everything I'd owned in my entire life combined. Elegant, regal, absolutely terrifying. "You don't have to go." Kieran stood behind me, close enough I could feel his heat but not touching, giving me space to decide. "I can make excuses, say you're still recovering, and prove to every alpha there that I'm weak, that you made a mistake claiming a human." I turned to face him. "No, I'm going." Pride flickered across his face, but concern shadowed it. "They're going to test you, push boundaries, try to find weaknesses they can exploit. So let them try." I sounded braver than I felt. "Linda's been teaching me more than just how to fight. She's been teaching me how to hold my ground." His hand came up, cupped my face with that gentleness that still surprised me every time. "You're already stronger than most of them. They just don't know it yet. Or they'll see right through me. Then I'll make them regret it." Not a threat, a promise. The summit hall was massive, all stone and soaring ceilings, packed with the most powerful alphas in the kingdom. Their mates stood beside them, beautiful wolves in expensive gowns, wearing their power like second skins. They moved with confidence I'd never possess, spoke in voices that commanded attention without trying. And then there was me, human, wolfless, wearing borrowed courage and a dress I was terrified of ruining. Every eye turned when we entered. Conversations died mid-sentence. The silence was deafening, heavy with judgment and curiosity and barely concealed contempt. Kieran's hand found the small of my back, steady pressure, and I felt his calm bleeding through the bond, anchoring me. "Breathe," he murmured, too low for anyone else to hear. "You belong here. You're my mate. That makes you their queen." Queen. The word still didn't feel real, but I lifted my chin and walked forward like I believed it. We made it halfway through the room before the first challenge came. "Your Majesty." A male voice, rough and mocking. "You've brought your pet." Kieran went very still beside me, dangerous still, the kind that preceded violence. I looked toward the voice, found a large alpha with silver-streaked hair and cold eyes. Marcus Kane, I remembered from Kieran's briefing. Alpha of the Northern Peaks Pack, powerful, ambitious, and constantly testing boundaries. "Choose your next words carefully, Kane." Kieran's voice was soft, lethal. "You're addressing my mate, my queen. Show the proper respect or leave." "Respect." Kane smiled, all teeth. "For a human? Forgive me, Majesty, but respect must be earned, and I see nothing before me worthy of it." Heat flooded my face. Shame, anger, fear, all tangling together, but underneath something else, something Linda had been drilling into me for 2 weeks. "You are not weak. You are not less. You are his mate, and that means something." "Then you're not looking very hard." My voice came out steady, clear. "Or maybe you're just used to judging worth by things that don't actually matter." The room got quieter, somehow. Kane's eyes narrowed. "Careful, human. You're out of your depth." "Maybe." I took a step forward, felt Kieran tense behind me, but also felt his approval through the bond. "But I'm still here, still standing beside the Alpha King, still his mate." "What's your excuse for disrespect? Jealousy? Fear? Or just basic poor manners?" Someone snickered, quickly stifled, but Kane heard it. His face darkened. "You have spirit. I'll give you that." He circled closer, predator sizing up prey. "But spirit doesn't make you worthy, doesn't make you strong enough to stand beside a king, to rule beside him. I'm not trying to prove anything to you." The words came from somewhere deep, some place that had survived 3 years of abuse and refused to break. "I'm his mate. The bond chose us. Your opinion about it is irrelevant." "Is it?" Kane stopped in front of me, deliberately invading my space. "Because I think opinions matter very much at this summit. I think the other alphas here deserve to know what kind of leadership they're expected to follow." "Kane." Kieran's voice cracked like a whip. Step back. Make me. Kane's smile was vicious. Oh wait, you can't. Not without proving my point. That she's made you weak. Made you lose the edge that made you Alpha King. You can't even defend your territory properly when there's a human distracting you with... Kieran moved so fast I barely saw it. One moment he was behind me, the next he had Kane by the throat, lifted off his feet, silver eyes blazing with barely leashed fury. Finish that sentence, Kieran growled. Give me a reason. The entire hall held its breath. Kieran. I touched his arm, felt the tension vibrating through him. Don't. He's not worth it. He insulted you. I know. I'm still standing. I kept my voice low, meant only for him. But if you kill him, you prove his point, that I make you lose control, that I'm a weakness. The words cost me, hurt in ways I wasn't prepared for, but they were true. Kieran's jaw clenched, unclenched. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered Kane back to his feet, then released him with a shove that sent the Alpha stumbling backward. You want proof she's worthy? Kieran's voice carried through the hall. You want to test her? Fine. But you'll do it properly, with respect. And if anyone crosses the line again, I won't stop myself next time. Proof? Another voice, female this time. Alpha Deanna Cross, leader of the Western Plains Pack. She stepped forward, elegant and dangerous. Perhaps that's exactly what we need. A demonstration that this bond is real, that she has any authority at all. My stomach dropped. What are you suggesting? Kieran asked, though I could feel through the bond that he already knew. Already hated it. Have her command you. Deanna's smile was razor sharp. If the bond is true, if she's really your mate, you'll obey her. Even something small, something public. That's not how mate bonds work, Kieran said flatly. Isn't it? Deanna cocked her head. Mates have influence over each other. Power. If she's really yours, really bonded, prove it. Let her command you to kneel. Here, now, in front of everyone. The hall erupted in murmurs. Some shocked, some approving, all hungry for the spectacle. Kieran's rage crashed through the bond like a tidal wave. You ask me to humiliate myself and my mate for your entertainment? I ask you to prove the bond is real. Deanna's expression didn't waver. Because if it's not, if this is just some infatuation with a pretty human, then we have a problem. Then she has no authority, no place here. She has every right. Let her prove it. Kane had recovered his courage, stepping forward again. Unless she's afraid she can't actually command you. Unless you're afraid you won't be able to obey a human. Trap. This was a trap, beautifully constructed, perfectly baited. If Kieran refused, they'd claim I had no real power, no true bond. If he agreed and I failed, same result. And if he agreed and I succeeded, I'd be the human who brought the Alpha King to his knees in front of his peers. Either way, we lost. Do it. My voice cut through the noise. Kieran's head whipped toward me. No. Do it, I repeated, looking only at him, blocking out everyone else. Trust me. I do trust you. But this isn't... Please. I held his gaze. Let him see my certainty even though my hands shook. Let me do this. Let me prove I'm not your weakness. The bond hummed between us, tight and bright, and I felt his war. His desire to protect me versus his trust in my judgment. His pride versus his love. Love. The word whispered through the bond, unspoken but felt. Finally, slowly, he nodded. I turned back to the watching alphas, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. You want a demonstration? I asked. Fine, but understand something first. A true mate bond isn't about control. It's about trust. About two people choosing each other, over and over, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I walked to the center of the hall, felt every eye on me, every judgment, every expectation. Then I looked at Kieran, my mate, my king, the man who'd caught me when I fell and never let go, and I said the words they wanted to hear. Kneel. The silence was absolute. Kieran didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at me with those silver eyes, and I felt his question through the bond. Are you sure? I was sure of nothing except that I trusted him, trusted us. So I held his gaze and waited. And slowly, deliberately, Kieran Ashwood Alpha King, most powerful wolf in the kingdom, lowered himself to one knee before me. The hall exploded. Gasps, shouts, shocked whispers that built to a roar. But I blocked it all out, focused only on him, on the trust shining in his eyes, on the way the bond sang between us. Then I did something they didn't expect. I knelt too, dropped to my knees in front of him, my dress pooling around me, and took his hands in mine. The bond goes both ways, I said loud enough to carry. He kneels for me, I kneel for him. He protects me, I protect him. That's what mates do. They choose each other, they honor each other, they share power, not hoard it. I looked up at the stunned alphas. So yes, I can command him. And yes, he'll obey. Not because I'm controlling him, but because he trusts me. Because we're equals. Because that's what a true mate bond looks like. Kieran's hands tightened on mine, and I felt his pride and love crashing through the bond so strongly it stole my breath. Are we done? I asked. Or do you need more proof that I belong here? Deanna stared at us, something like respect flickering across her face. Kane looked furious. Others looked shocked, confused, some even moved. But Kieran was smiling. He stood, pulled me to my feet, and in front of everyone, in front of the entire summit, he cupped my face and kissed my forehead with infinite gentleness. My queen, he murmured. Mine. And I believed him. I made it exactly 10 minutes after the demonstration before I had to leave. The walls closed in. The stairs became too much. The weight of what I'd just done, of how I'd publicly claimed Kieran and been claimed in return, crashed over me like a wave. I'd brought him to his knees, in front of his people, his enemies. God, what had I done? I found myself in the gardens outside the hall, gasping for air, my hands shaking so badly I had to clutch my dress to keep them still. That was either brilliant or suicidal, haven't decided which yet. I spun to find Linda leaning against a pillar, arms crossed, expression unreadable. I ruined him, I whispered. I made him kneel. They'll use that against him, against us. They'll think twice before challenging either of you again. Linda pushed off the pillar, walked closer. You think you showed weakness? You showed them a united front. Showed them the bond is real, that you're a team. That's power, girl. Real power. I made the Alpha King kneel. And then you knelt with him. Linda's expression softened slightly. That's the part they'll remember. Not that you could command him, but that you refused to stand above him, that you chose equality over dominance. My breath hitched. You really think so? I know so. I've been in politics longer than you've been alive. She studied me. But that's not really what's bothering you, is it? It wasn't. I'm terrified, I admitted. That I'm not enough. That one day he'll wake up and realize he could have had someone stronger, someone worthy, and he settled for... Stop. Linda's voice was sharp. You are not his weakness. You're his strength. Did you see his face in there? He was ready to tear Kane apart for insulting you. He'd burn the whole kingdom down if it meant keeping you safe. That's not weakness. That's having something worth fighting for. Tears burned behind my eyes. What if I can't be what he needs? Then you figure it out together. That's what mates do. Linda's hand landed on my shoulder, firm and grounding. But running away? Hiding? That's not you. Not the woman who stood in that hall and commanded a king. Not the woman who gets knocked down in training every day and keeps getting back up. She was right. I knew she was right. But fear was a stubborn thing. Go back inside, Linda said. He's probably tearing the place apart looking for you. Let him find you. Let him remind you why you're his. I nodded, wiped my eyes, straightened my spine, and walked back into the hall to find my mate. Because I wasn't his weakness. I was his queen. And it was time I started acting like it. The alarm bells started ringing at midnight. I jolted awake in Kieran's arms. We'd fallen asleep on the couch after the summit, exhausted from politics and performance and the weight of being watched. His hand was already on his sword before I'd fully processed the sound, his body shifting from relaxed to lethal in a heartbeat. "What's happening?" I pushed myself up, heart racing. "Stay here." He was on his feet, moving toward the door. "Kieran, I mean it." He looked back, eyes already more wolf than man. "Stay in these chambers. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me or Linda." Then he was gone, the door slamming behind him, and I was alone with the sound of bells and distant shouting and my own thundering pulse. I lasted maybe 30 seconds before I ignored every instruction he'd given me. The corridors were chaos, guards running, servants being ushered to safe rooms, the organized panic of a castle under threat. I grabbed a passing guard by the arm. "What's happening?" "The prisoners, my lady. They've escaped." My blood went cold. Which prisoners? But I already knew. Emily, Drake, the ones Kieran had kept locked up, waiting for trial, waiting for justice. The ones who'd spent 2 weeks stewing in their hatred, their humiliation, their rage, and now they were loose. I found Kieran in the throne room, surrounded by guards and council members, his face carved from stone as he listened to reports. His eyes found mine immediately, and I felt his fury through the bond, not at the escape, but at me. "I told you to stay in the chambers. I don't take orders well. You should know that by now." I crossed to him, ignored the scandalized looks from the council. "Where are they?" "We don't know yet." They had helped someone on the inside, gave them keys, weapons, a head start. His jaw clenched. "We're searching the castle and grounds. They won't stay here." I knew Emily, knew how she thought. "She's running. Probably has a plan to reach another pack, claim asylum, spin this so she's the victim. Then we hunt." Kieran turned to his guards. "Track them. I want every exit watched, every road monitored. They don't leave this territory alive. Your Majesty." One of the council members stepped forward, nervous. "Perhaps you should remain here. Let the guards handle. My mate's abusers are loose in my castle." Kieran's voice dropped to something dangerous. "I'm not staying anywhere. I'm coming with you." The words were out before I could second-guess them. Absolutely not. She knows me, knows how I think, how I react. I moved closer, held his gaze. "If anyone can predict where she'll go, what she'll do, it's me. You need me on this hunt. You're not trained for..." "I've been training for 2 weeks, and before that, I survived 3 years with her. I know her weaknesses, her fears, her tells." I took his hand, felt the tension vibrating through him. "Where you go, I go. Remember? That's what you said." The bond hummed between us, and I felt his war. Every protective instinct screaming at him to lock me somewhere safe versus his knowledge that I was right, that I could help. "If anything happens to you, it won't, because you'll be there." I squeezed his hand. "Trust me, like I trusted you at the summit." That did it. His expression softened fractionally, and he nodded once. "Stay close, stay behind me, and if I tell you to run..." "I won't. If I tell you to run," he repeated firmly, "you run. Promise me." "I promise I'll consider it strongly." Despite everything, his lips twitched. "You're going to be the death of me, or the making of you." I managed a smile. "Come on, let's go catch a coward." We found their trail in the East Gardens, heading toward the forest. "Blood on the stones, Drakes," Linda reported, from where a guard had gotten a hit in before going down. Not fatal, but enough to slow them, enough to track. The forest was dark, thick with shadows and the sounds of nocturnal creatures scattering at our approach. Kieran led the hunting party with lethal grace, his wolf senses tracking what I couldn't see. But I knew these woods, had been dragged through them often enough during the years Emily's father tried to toughen me up by leaving me to find my way back alone. This way. I pointed toward a narrow trail barely visible through the undergrowth. "There's an old gamekeeper's cabin about a mile north, abandoned. If she's smart, she'd hole up there until morning, then move at first light when it's safer. Kieran looked at me, something like pride flickering through the concern. You're sure? As sure as I can be. I paused. She used to threaten to leave me there. Lock me in. Said no one would hear me scream. His eyes flashed silver. Then let's make sure she's the one who screams. We moved as one unit, Kieran, Linda, 6 of his best guards, and me, silent as ghosts through the darkness. The cabin appeared through the trees exactly where I said it would be, sagging and dark, but there a faint light flickering through a broken window. Someone was inside. Kieran held up a hand, stopping the group. His eyes met mine, and I felt his question through the bond. You ready for this? I nodded, though my heart threatened to break through my ribs. The guards surrounded the cabin. Linda took position by the back entrance. Kieran and I approached the front door, his body angled to shield me, every line of him screaming predator. He didn't knock, just kicked the door open, wood splintering, and we flooded inside. Emily screamed. Drake snarled, already shifting, his wolf half emerging in a grotesque display of fur and rage. But they were cornered. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Going somewhere? Kieran's voice was death itself. You can't do this. Emily scrambled backward, all pretense of dignity gone. I'm Pac. You can't just... You're a criminal. You tortured my mate for 3 years. You tried to have her executed. Kieran moved forward, each step deliberate. You're lucky I'm giving you a trial at all. She's human. She doesn't belong here. She's made you weak, made you... careful. The word cracked like a whip. You're already facing execution. Don't make me enjoy it. Drake lunged. It happened so fast, one moment he was half-shifted and snarling. The next he was airborne, claws extended, aiming not for Kieran but for me. Time slowed. I saw Linda moving, too far away. Saw Kieran turning, fast but not fast enough. Saw Drake's eyes, wild with hatred and madness, fixed on me like I was the source of all his problems. And something inside me, something that had been sleeping, dormant, waiting, woke up. Power exploded through me like lightning. Golden light, bright enough to blind, erupted from my skin in a wave that sent Drake flying backward into the wall with a sickening crack. The entire cabin shook. Dust rained from the ceiling, and I stood at the center of it all, glowing like a star, feeling strength in my bones I'd never possessed before. My wolf. I had a wolf. How? I was human. I'd never shifted, never shown any sign. But the power was undeniable. It sang through my veins, ancient and fierce and mine. Drake groaned, trying to rise. I moved before I could think, faster than I'd ever moved, and had him pinned with one hand on his throat. The strength was intoxicating, terrifying, perfect. You don't get to touch me anymore, I said quietly. You don't get to hurt me. You don't get to make me afraid. What are you? Emily's voice shaking with terror. I looked at her. This woman who'd made my life hell for 8 years and felt nothing. No hatred, no rage, just pity. She was small, had always been small. I'd just been too beaten down to see it. I'm his mate. I released Drake, let him collapse, gasping. I'm his queen, and I'm done letting you define me. Kieran was at my side suddenly, his hand on my arm, his emotions crashing through the bond shock. Pride, awe, love, so fierce it stole my breath. How? He whispered. I don't know. The light was fading now, sinking back beneath my skin, but I could still feel it there, waiting. I don't understand. Dormant wolf. Linda's voice filled with wonder. Rare, but it happens. Trauma, suppression, it can lock a wolf away so deep even the person doesn't know it's there, until something breaks the seal. What broke it? Love. Kieran's hand cupped my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. The mate bond, being safe enough, strong enough, to finally let it free. Tears pricked my eyes. I have a wolf. You have a wolf. He smiled, brilliant and beautiful. My fierce, powerful, incredible mate has a wolf. So what do we do with them? I looked at Emily and Drake, both cowering now, both finally afraid. The old me would have wanted revenge, blood for blood, pain for pain, but I wasn't that person anymore. Lock them up. I turned away, done with them. Give them their trial. Let the kingdom decide their fate. I looked back once. I could kill you. Probably should, after everything you did. But I'm not you. I don't need to destroy people to feel strong. Emily's face crumpled. You're going to regret showing mercy. Maybe. I took Kieran's offered hand, laced our fingers together. But I'll regret becoming like you more. We walked out together, leaving the guards to handle the prisoners. And the moment we were clear of the cabin, Kieran pulled me into his arms. You're incredible, he murmured into my hair. Do you know that? You're absolutely incredible. I have a wolf. I was still processing, still reeling. How did I not know? Because you were surviving, not living. He pulled back to look at me, his eyes bright with unshed tears. But now you're free, free to be everything you were always meant to be. The bond sang between us, stronger now, deeper, like my wolf had completed some circuit that had been waiting. What happens now? I asked. Now? He smiled, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. Now we go home. We plan a proper coronation. We build the life we both deserve. Together. Always together. He kissed my forehead, soft and reverent. Where you go, I go, remember? I remembered. And for the first time in my life, I believed in happy endings. Because I was living mine. Because I was living mine. The coronation was 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of preparation, of learning protocol I'd never needed before, of standing for fittings while seamstresses pinned fabric around me and whispered that I was too thin, too scarred, too human until Linda shut them up with a look that could cut glass. 3 weeks of my wolf settling into place, learning to coexist with this new power thrumming beneath my skin. It didn't make me less human, just made me more myself, whole in a way I'd never been before. 3 weeks of falling deeper in love, with a man who looked at me like I hung the moon. The throne room was packed. Every alpha who'd attended the summit had returned, along with their packs, their councils, their witnesses. They filled the massive space to capacity, all eyes forward, all waiting to see if the human girl, the one who'd commanded their king to kneel, would actually become their queen. I stood in the preparation chamber off the main hall, staring at myself in the mirror and barely recognizing the reflection. The gown was ivory and gold, fitted to my body like it had been grown there, flowing to the floor in layers of silk and intricate embroidery. My hair was swept up, woven with gold thread and tiny diamonds that caught the light. I looked regal, powerful. I looked like a queen, but my hands still shook. Breathe. Linda appeared behind me, adjusting the fall of my train. You've faced worse than this. Have I, though? I met her eyes in the mirror. This is forever. Once I walk out there, once he crowns me, there's no going back. I'll be responsible for all of them. Every wolf in this kingdom will look to me for exactly what you've already given them. Strength, compassion, the courage to stand when it's easier to fall. Linda's hand landed on my shoulder, firm and grounding. You were born for this. You just didn't know it yet. I was born in poverty to a human woman who died too young, and you survived. That alone makes you stronger than half the wolves out there. She turned me to face her. Listen to me. You are not the scared girl who collapsed in that courtroom. You're not even the woman who commanded a king at the summit. You're more. You're his mate, his equal, his partner. And today, you become his queen. Own it. I took a breath. Let it out slowly, felt my wolf stir, lending me strength. Okay, I whispered. I'm ready. The doors opened to trumpets and ceremony, and I walked into a room full of wolves who had judged me, tested me, tried to break me, but I was still standing. The aisle stretched before me, impossibly long, lined with pack leaders and their mates. I felt their stares, their assessments, their lingering doubts, but I kept my chin up, my steps steady, my eyes fixed on the figure waiting at the end. Kieran. He stood before his throne in full royal regalia, black and silver, his crown already in place, looking every inch the Alpha King he was. But his eyes, God, his eyes were only for me, silver and bright and burning with something that made my breath catch. Pride, love, possession, promise. The bond hummed between us, a living thing, pulling me forward until I stood before him. "Kneel," the officiant intoned, and for a moment panic fluttered in my chest. But Kieran's hand extended toward me, steady and sure, and I took it. Let him guide me down until I knelt before him, the silk of my gown pooling around me like water. The room fell silent. "Do you swear?" Kieran said, his voice carrying through the massive space. "To serve this kingdom with honor, to protect its people, to uphold its laws, and to stand beside me as partner and equal in all things?" The traditional vows, the ones every queen before me had spoken. "I swear it," I said clearly. "On my life, on my wolf, on the bond between us, I swear it." His eyes flashed, and I felt his satisfaction through our connection. "Then by the power vested in me as Alpha King, by the authority of this crown and the witness of this court," he lifted the smaller crown from its cushion, delicate gold worked into the shape of wolves and flowers, beautiful and deadly at once. "I name you queen, my mate, my equal, my heart." The last part wasn't in the traditional ceremony, was personal, intimate, meant only for me, even though everyone heard it. He placed the crown on my head with infinite gentleness, his fingers brushing my temples, and I felt the weight of it not heavy but significant, real. "Rise, my queen." I stood with his help, and he didn't release my hand, kept me close as he turned us both to face the assembled wolves. "I present to you," he declared, his voice ringing with authority and unmistakable pride, "your queen, my mate, the Luna of this kingdom." The room erupted, not in protest, not in dist, in a roar of approval that shook the walls, wolves howling their acceptance, their allegiance, their recognition of the bond between us and what it meant. And then, slowly, deliberately, every alpha in the room, even Cain, even Deanna, dropped to one knee. The pack bowed. To me, tears burned behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not here, not now. Instead, I stood tall beside my mate, my king, and accepted what I'd never thought I'd have. A place, a purpose, a home. "Thank you," I said softly, though my voice carried. "I know I'm not what you expected, not what tradition dictated, but I promise you this: I will fight for you, protect you, honor the trust you've placed in me by accepting this crown." Kieran's hand tightened on mine, his pride flooding through the bond so strongly it nearly buckled my knees. "Long live the queen," someone shouted. The cry was taken up, repeated, building to a crescendo that echoed through the throne room and probably beyond, out into the city, the kingdom, the world. Long live the queen, and I believed them. The celebration lasted hours, dancing, toasts, political maneuvering disguised as pleasantries. I played my part, smiled until my face hurt, accepted congratulations from wolves who'd wanted me dead weeks ago. But the moment we could escape, we did. Kieran led me to a balcony overlooking the gardens, away from the noise and the crowd, into cool night air that smelled of jasmine and possibility. The moon was full overhead, bathing everything in silver light, and for a moment we just stood there in the quiet. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. I considered the question, really considered it. Was I all right? I'd been crowned queen, had a kingdom looking to me for leadership, had responsibilities and expectations and a future that terrified me as much as it thrilled me. But I also had a wolf sleeping contentedly in my chest, had scars that were healing, inside and out, had a man who looked at me like I was his whole world. "I'm more than all right," I said finally. "I'm happy. Actually, genuinely happy. I didn't think that was possible for me." His arms came around me from behind, pulling me back against his chest, and I melted into the embrace. Let myself be held, be cherished, be loved. "You know what's funny?" I tilted my head back to look at him. When you first caught me when I collapsed in that courtroom, I was so weak I couldn't stand on my own. Needed you to hold me up, to keep me breathing. You were never weak." His voice was fierce. "Wounded, yes. Exhausted, but never weak. Maybe. But I needed you. Desperately. Completely." I turned in his arms, faced him fully. "And now you could stand on your own," he finished. "I know. I can feel it through the bond. You're strong enough to walk away if you wanted to. Is that what scares you?" I reached up, cupped his face. "That I'll realize I don't need you anymore and leave?" The thought has crossed my mind. His honesty was devastating. Vulnerable. I claimed you when you were vulnerable. When you had no other options. Now you have choices, power, a kingdom that would follow you even without me. So yes, sometimes I wonder if... I kissed him. Finally, after weeks of almost touches and interrupted moments and careful restraint, I rose on my toes and pressed my lips to his. He froze for half a second, shocked, before his arms banded around me and he kissed me back with everything he'd been holding in check. It was desperate and gentle and possessive and reverent all at once, a claiming and a surrender, a question and an answer. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, I kept my forehead pressed to his. "I can stand on my own now," I whispered, "but I choose not to. I choose to stand with you, beside you. That's what you don't understand. The bond didn't trap me. It freed me. Gave me the safety I needed to become strong enough to choose you back." His eyes closed, and I felt his relief crash through the bond like a wave. "I love you," he said roughly. "God, I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too." The words came easily now. Naturally. My mate, my king, my partner. He kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, pouring everything he felt through the bond and the touch until I was dizzy with it. When he pulled back, his smile was crooked and beautiful and entirely mine. "So what now, my queen?" I looked out over the gardens, the kingdom spread beyond them, the life we were building together. Thought about the girl I'd been broken and scared and certain she'd die on a cold stone floor, and the woman I'd become crowned and whole and standing in the arms of a man who'd caught her when she fell and never let go. Now, I smiled. Now we live. We rule. We fight for what we've built and protect what we love. Together. Together, he agreed, and sealed it with another kiss that tasted like promises and forever. I was too bruised to stand once, but I rose anyway, and I would keep rising, keep fighting, keep choosing love over fear, strength over surrender, hope over despair, because I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, and this beautiful, impossible, perfect life was only the beginning. Thank you for listening to another emotional, magical shifter romance here on Tina Romance Library. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, so you never miss more powerful, heart-gripping romance stories.